Almost there. Chapter 21, Tiana. Congo Square, New Orleans, Saturday, February 1927, 3 days before Mardi Gras. Tiana stood on the periphery of the crowd that had formed in the center of Congo Square. She clapped along to the rhythmic beat of the drum, cheering on the brave folks who took their turn in the center of the circle. It was a long-standing tradition to honor the ancestors who had been brought here against their will and forced to work the land by commemorating their sacrifice through song and dance. The Mardi Gras Indians, just like those in the painting Miss Rose had given her, led the ceremonial celebration. Their elaborate headdresses and colorful costumes sparkled in the rays of sun. Remarkably, the thick fog that continued to plague the city had thinned into a gauzy haze, as if it knew how important today was to the people gathering here, and didn't want to ruin it. The light mist that did remain cast an ethereal quality over everything, making it seem almost dreamlike. "You want to dance, baby girl?" Her daddy gestured to the circle. Before she could talk herself out of it, Tiana nodded, grabbed him by the arm, and centered the fray. She mimicked the steps of the other dancers, joining in the traditional African folk dance she'd been taught as a little girl. Her daddy danced alongside her, stomping his big feet and twisting his torso from left to right. Tiana tilted her head back and held her arms to the sky, unable to restrain her smile. She felt a sense of weightlessness, as if she could take flight at any moment. It was a feeling she never wanted to let go of. A freeness she hadn't allowed herself to feel in far too long. Once the dance ended, the crowd erupted in cheers. Her daddy wrapped her up in a big bear hug and swung her around like he used to do when she was a little girl. Tiana clung to his big frame, soaking in the safety and security and love he embodied. Her throat tightened with emotions and threatened to overwhelm her. "That felt like old times, baby girl." "It felt like the best times," Tiana answered. He set her back down and rubbed a hand over his stomach. "All that dancing has made me hungry. I think it's time for some of that fried chicken and cornbread." Her daddy headed for the spot they commandeered in the left side of the square, where her mother was busy setting up the lunch. Charlotte and Naveen both ran up to Tiana. "That was fabulous," Naveen said. "Oh, it was, Tia, just fabulous," Charlotte said. "Who knew Mr. Janes could move like that?" She flapped her arms like a crazed flamingo in what Tiana could only guess was her attempt to mimic the folk dance. "I've never seen such dancing before." "Really?" Tiana asked. She considered the fact that the celebration at Congo Square was a sacred ritual, but only to certain communities in New Orleans. Tiana had never thought to invite Charlotte to bring them before. No, I guess you haven't," Tiana said. "Show me how you did that spin," Charlotte said. She twirled and fell flat on her backside. "Ouch," Tiana grimaced. "Well, that didn't go the way I thought it would." Charlotte held her hands out so that Tiana and Naveen could help her up. She took a step and yelped, "I think I broke my ankle." "But you didn't land on your ankle," Tiana said. Well, something's broken. Naveen, sugar," Charlotte called. "Why don't you help me get over there where Miss Eudora is setting up the picnic? I think some peach cobbler will make me feel better." Tiana shook her head but chuckled as Naveen lopped Charlotte's arm around his neck. Together they hobbled toward Tiana's parents. "Hey, Tiana!" She spotted Maddie jogging toward her. I'll meet you all over there in just a minute," Tiana told Charlotte and Naveen, then waved over her friend. "Hey, Maddie," Tiana said as she approached. "How's it going?" "I saw you dancing out there, girl. Good to know you can still kick up your heels and have a good time." "Maybe you should tell Georgia that so she can get off my case about going out," Tiana answered with a smile. "That's if I can find her. I haven't seen her or Eugene since leaving your supper club Thursday evening. I thought they would show up last night, because Georgia loves some Rudy Davis, but I guess it's just as well as they didn't." Maddie leaned in close. "Although I must say, that trumpet player from last night sure is something." She wiggled her eyebrows. "He's been looking at you the entire time we've been talking." Tiana felt a telltale blush creeping up on her cheeks. "I need to go help Mama set up lunch," she told Maddie. "I'll talk to you later, and if I run into Georgia and Eugene, I'll let them know you've been looking for him." Tiana continued to the lunch that her mother had spread out on the massive patchwork quilt she created from fabric scraps. The quilt made an appearance only once a year, for this very celebration. It was soft and colorful and filled with memories that Tiana had learned to cherish even more during those years when her daddy was gone. She wouldn't think about those times. Their family was whole again. That was what mattered. Tiana was grateful that talk of postponing the picnic until the fog retreated had turned out to be nothing but talk. More and more people were looking forward toward the river to the Copewort. Based on snippets of conversation she caught on as she moved about the square, that green algae growing in the river had also gotten thicker overnight. Whatever had caused this phenomenon, it was beginning to wreak havoc for too many people, especially for people who relied on the river for their livelihood, like the fishermen she did business with. Tiana didn't want to give any credence to what that shadow man had told her, but the thought continued to linger in the back of her mind. Was this all her fault? Don't be ridiculous, she whispered to herself. Refusing to allow thoughts about the shadow man to steal another minute of her day, she joined the others over on the picnic blanket and feasted on fried chicken, cornbread, deviled eggs, fruit salad, and peach cobbler. Full and satisfied, Tiana braced her hands on either side of her and stretched her face out toward the sky, basking in the warmth of the sun, trying to peek through the haze. Tiana? Navine's voice came from somewhere just to the left of her. She tilted her head to the side and opened one eye. Yes? She could see Charlotte a few feet away, holding her thumb up and smiling. I wondered if you would like to dance, Naveen asked. She wasn't sure if this was the raw hope she saw in his eyes, but something compelled her to say, Okay. Tiana almost laughed at Naveen's shocked expression. His mouth opened and closed several times before he spoke. Really? He asked. This was her chance to backtrack, to tell him that she hadn't heard him correctly or that she'd simply changed her mind. But she didn't. She no longer hoped for a day that there could be anything more between them. She knew it was possible in order to keep him safe. But she selfishly wanted this one dance. One little dance. That wasn't too much to ask, was it? And here at the picnic they seemed so far from the shadow man and his tricks. Tiana held out her hand. Naveen helped her up from the quilt, beaming. Together they joined the others who were dancing to the lively brass band that had started up a few minutes ago. In that moment, at least, every single thing was right in her world.